Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. And for those of you that are new here or have just recently found my channel, I am Gwen. I am an older, mature woman with transgender experience making all kinds of content. So how is everyone? Hope you had a wonderful weekend. Hope your week so far has been going well. I want to start off by apologizing for how I look. I don't look that great. The past number of days have been very stressful, frustrating, busy, a lot of things going on, some good things and some not so good things. So instead of listing the good things and the not so good things separately, I'm just going to go with each day's events. So Thursday, I think it was slightly after noon, maybe like 20 minutes, 1:15. I received a phone call from somebody, and they were calling to tell me that my mother-in-law was in a car accident and I needed to, I'm not going to say come down and get her, but just come down. Luckily, it was maybe a mile and a half from my house. It wasn't too bad. So I got down there, and talking to everybody there, I was able to figure out what happened to us. Most of it, but anyways, there was a car that was turning from this. It's a state road, and they were in the process of repaving it. So they had it coned off, which is not well. They didn't have center line markings. So they had cones up and everybody was driving. Speed limit is, 55 miles an hour, which is about 90 kilometers per hour. And, but it was coned, and they had cones up over the center line. So people were driving slower. They were probably, they might have been driving 45, 50 miles an hour. So, 85 to 90 kilometers per hour. But anyways, and so there was this car. It was turning left into their driveway. And the vehicle behind them had slowed. He was coasting. He took his foot off the accelerator, and he was coasting because he saw them. They had their turn signal on. He saw they were turning. The best that I can figure out, and mostly because there was no skid marks, my mother-in-law did not stop. She plowed right into the back of him, drove him into the car that was turning, totaled her car. She had a 2007 Jeep, buckled the hood, pushed the radiator into the engine. I think possibly even pushed the engine back. because the engine was dead. Nothing. The car wasn't running when I got there. I mean, the engine was dead, even though it was in drive. And her airbag, driver's side airbag deployed, and she was complaining of chest pains. But she also sits so far forward, I can't even do it here. She's probably like 6 inches, maybe 8 at the most from the steering wheel. So the bag just came out, hit her right here. She had, we found out later on, she had seatbelt rash. So when this locked up, when she had the accident, she's got a rash across here. So I made sure she was okay. She's like, well, she complained of chest pains. She said somebody called the ambulance. I'm like, okay. So the fire department responded, and the ambulance responded. Sheriff's deputies arrived. She got her license. I helped her find her registration, which was expired. I don't know if she has a new one, but it was expired. Found her insurance and gave that to the deputy. And the driver's side door had been open, so the door open chime was going, and she's like, well, can you turn it off? Well, I'm like, I can't even get the key out of the ignition. And then I happened to look down on the gear shift console, and it was in drive. So I says, well, put your foot on the brake, and I will try to shift it into park. And she did, and I couldn't get it into park. I don't know if it was because the engine had locked up to the transmission, or if she broke some linkages, or the impact may have damaged the torque converter. I don't know. I couldn't get it into park. I struggled as hard as I could. So then she's like, well, there's on the console, it's a plastic console, and she goes, well, there's a hole in the side, and Grandpa used to take, and there's a little plug, and pull it out, and you could take that console off, and there's something you had to do there to put it in a park. And I'm like, no, you're not going to be able to do that. Well, why don't you just try it? I says, no, your transmission is damaged. I'm like, you cannot put it in park. I says, it's not going to work. Well, why don't you just try it? I says, you're questioning my years of experience in working on cars. Well, I'm just going to shut up then. And I'm like, you know, what you're suggesting just isn't going to work. You never listen to me. She's like, I always say something. She goes, and you have to interrupt me, and you never listen. I says, I'm listening now, and I'm telling you it's not going to work. Well, you never, all the other times, you never listen to me. I'm like, you know what? I'm done. Got out of the car, I shut the door, and walked to the other side of the road. 2 minutes later, the ambulance shows up, put her on a gurney, and transport her to the hospital. So she spent all night in the hospital. She has a broken rib and the L4 vertebrae. She has a compression fracture. I think that was about it. So I got a call Friday morning to come down to the hospital. It's only 10 miles, and pick her up. Okay. So I get down there, and she's asleep. I wait maybe 5 minutes, and she wakes up. Oh, you're here. Yeah. She's like, well, they said they had to do another test. I'm like, that's not what they told me half an hour ago. Well, they decided they needed to do another test. I said, well, then I may have to come back. I said, because I'm supposed to be working. I know I should have just called Ed. It's our neighbor on the other side of me. I didn't say anything. So the nurse happened to come in and says, well, we're going to take you right now and do an x-ray. So they did, brought her back, and the nurse is like, well, you two can get her dressed, both of you can get yourself dressed. And I knew she felt very uncomfortable because in her eyes, I'm still considered male. So I says, I'll step out of the room. So the nurse helped her get dressed, got her in a wheelchair, got her out to the car, got her in the car, drove her home, and she's telling me, she goes, well, I never saw the guy's brake lights. I says, because he wasn't braking. Well, he was driving slow. Yeah, because it's construction. I says, he was coasting because the car in front of him was turning into their driveway. Oh, I never saw that car. Okay. And she says, well, I put my foot on the brake. She goes, and I tried to slow down. She goes, but the car wouldn't stop. I think she was distracted, and she braked too late, because then she goes, well, did I leave skid marks? I thought about it. I'm like, no, you did not. There are no skid marks on the road. So she never even locked the brakes up. She never hit them very hard. And I don't even think she hit them at all. I think by the time she did, she was a car length away, and she was probably doing 45, 50 miles an hour and just plowed into the back of the guy. So I got her home, and I got her inside, and she was up moving around, and okay, that's fine. She was appreciative, thank you, and blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, well, what can I do for you? I just happened to go by the place where she had the accident, and I looked, and the car that was turning left into their driveway, which I just passed, their bumper has a dent in it, but the guy that she hit totaled his car. So, anyways, she was appreciative. She's like, what can I do for you? I'm like, nothing. I says, I need to get back to work. Okay. And off I went. Okay. With what had transpired on Thursday, I'm like, okay, I can just let it go, move on. She seems okay. She was appreciative of what I did. Fine. My daughter stops after work because my mother-in-law lives next door. My daughter comes home, and she's like, oh my gosh. I'm like, what? And she proceeds to tell me, my daughter walked in, and my mother-in-law proceeded to berate me in front of my daughter about how I was this horrible person. I never listened to her. I didn't do what she said. On and on and on. So I said to my daughter, I'm done. I am not doing anything for her anymore. I am done. My daughter is like, well, who's going to take her to doctor appointments since she doesn't have a car? It's not my problem. I'm done. I says, I'm tired of trying to be nice to her, and she turns around every time and kicks me in the teeth. I says, I'm done. I am not doing anything for her. So that was Thursday and Friday. Saturday, I had my 50th high school reunion. and it was so much fun. I'm going to get more into it in a bit. I just got home because I had to go down the laundromat again, and when I get into the house, I need to use the restroom. So before I can continue, I need to take care of that, and then I can continue inside. So just gonna bear with me, and I'll be right back. Okay, so I'm back. I was thinking just a minute or so ago, is I was explaining. I'll get back into my reunion. I was explaining about my mother-in-law saying that I never listened to her. The problem gets into is my mother-in-law isn't really exceptionally bright, and she has a lot of ideas, and unfortunately her ideas usually end up involving more work or don't pan out or even work properly. So this is why she tends to get ignored. And it also kind of dawned on me too, is that for many, many years she used to complain, when my father-in-law was alive, she used to complain that he never listened to her, and he never listened to her suggestions. I'm understanding why now. He used to ignore her because her suggestions just weren't valid. And she always would make the comment, well, I'm just trying to help. That's the problem. You're trying to anticipate something that you know nothing about, and you have no knowledge and able to solve the issue. So, but anyways, my reunion. So, yep, it was a lot of fun. We, we spent 2 hours. Yeah, 2 hours. We were able to get a tour of the high school. Oh my gosh, it's amazing how much it has changed over 50 years. They've gone through redid the inside. I was hard pressed. It tells you how much things have changed. I was hard pressed to find a chalkboard. Everything is whiteboards now that the teachers could write on with felt tip markers, and they can, well, it used to be 10 years ago you could print it off, but I think now they're to the point where you can actually you can make a screen copy of what's on the whiteboard, and then you can email it out to the student's high school email account. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. We walked by the pool, and they redid that. Back when we were in high school, it was a solid wall, and then on the other side of the wall was the bleachers, then the pool, and as you're in, let's see if I have something here. Oh, rectangular. There you go. So we grab this. So you have something like this, and this would be the length of the pool, and then they have over on this side they have a separate diving pool. Well, the starting blocks used to be at that end. Now they're at this end. And let's see, if I was standing, so the pool is like this, and then we used to have the solid wall here. Now it's an all glass wall, and they pushed out the wall of the outside wall of the pool, and that's where all the bleachers are. I'm like, oh my gosh, what amazing. They have a brand new separate freshman cafeteria, which is the size of a small restaurant. They have a booths and high top tables where you could stand up, or have high top like bar stools type of thing. The thing that shocked me, which I was very surprised, is our tour guide said they took out all the shop classes. We used to have metal shop and wood shop, and when I was a junior, they had electric shop where you were taught how to like wire a house. We even got into a little bit, because it was still in the early stages, a little bit. It was before integrated circuits really took off. But we learned basic electronics like color coding of resistors and the tolerance bands and things like that, which I still remember to this day. And we had a class project where we built a super heterodyne radio, and it was strictly AM band. And then we had a competition to see who could pick up the farthest away station, and I wound up taking a coaxial. It was a flat cable, but it was a two-wire cable that we actually could serve it as an antenna. And I ran it out my bedroom window up onto the roof, and I think it was a flat, ran around along the peak of the roof, but still, the cable was laid flat. But I think it was 40 foot long, something like that. And I was able, being in New York State, I was able to pick up radio stations in Florida. And I'm not 100% sure, but I'm reasonably sure I actually picked up the BBC in London, which I thought was absolutely amazing. But anyways, so I had a really, really wonderful time with electric shop. But that's all gone now, which I was really, really surprised. The auditorium that used to seat maybe not 300, maybe 400 people. They went through and redid it and added on to it. And I think the tour guide says it now seats 1,200 people. Like, oh my gosh, that was... I'll have to show some pictures, or go back through and add some pictures in of some of the things I talked about. So then after that, we met at, it was like, it was a lodge at a park, and they had food, and they're actually one of our classmates. His grandfather started a local beer distributorship. He's the local distributor in the area for Budweiser or Anheuser-Busch, mostly Anheuser-Busch products. So he had a little trailer with 4 or 5 kinds of beer on tap. He had soda and water, and it was a sparkling energy drink that I think Anheuser-Busch makes. I don't know. He also, I don't know if he did or somebody did, brought wine. I opted not to drink only because I had an hour ride home. So I opted not to drink, which is perfectly fine. We had probably maybe about 50 people show up on the high school tour. We had probably 70 people, because at the picnic, because this also included spouses, and more people came to the picnic than they did the tour. But it was really, really wonderful. They had it was must be out in the kitchen. They had name badges, probably about this big, and it had class of 1975, and it had your senior picture on it and your name, which was pretty really cool. Side note, I did not go like this. I did not go as my authentic self because these people knew somebody else from 50 years ago. And I'm no longer that person. So the whole point of the reunion was the reunion. And if I went like this as my authentic self, then a lot more of the focus would have been on me in my transition. And that's not what the event was for. So I opted to dress more androgynously and kind of blended in, so to speak, so as not to, I'm not going to say raise any questions, but to kind of keep the focus on the reunion. But anyways, so it was absolutely amazing. And there were some people there that I haven't seen since graduation, and I wouldn't recognize them at all. I had to look at their name badge to realize who it was. Interestingly enough, now that I just think about it, there was one guy that I actually palled around with senior year. I recognized him after he said who he was. The big problem, the big difference is he just doesn't have anything up here anymore. And there was another guy that looks the same as he did in high school. He just a little bit less here, and he had jet black hair, and now it's gray. But there was probably 4, 5 girls, women, that even though it's 50 years later, I recognize them right off the bat. One of them was this gal. She grew up about 6 houses down from me, and we've known each other since we were 4 or 5 years old. And I haven't seen her in probably 10 years when one of our other neighbors had passed away. He died from leukemia. The area that I grew up in a span of like 10 houses, there was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of us. They were all the same age and all graduated together at the same time. I mean, we used to do things together outside of school. I mean, as kids, we did a lot of things together. We played kickball and dodgeball and all kinds of things like that. I mean, we even played baseball and football. The girls joined in. It's just the way it was in the early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. When we got into pretty much maybe junior high, so it'd be grades 7 on, everybody started kind of going their separate ways. They established their own friends or different friends and different interest. Now, like one guy who has since passed away, died from cancer about 8-9 years ago. I knew him since we were 3 years old. And when he got into middle school, he got into sports. And unfortunately in senior high, he also got involved into drugs. But, you know, those things happened. So we kind of drifted apart because I was never very good at sports nor very interested in sports. Even though I follow sports, I just um, was never good enough to participate in sports. Though 15 years ago I did get into running, which I do enjoy. So maybe I could have tried for the track team, but my life was very different back then because it was just my mom and myself, and I had adult responsibilities as a teenager. So being involved in after school activities was just not something that was possible. But anyways, so there's a lot of people that I did not recognize, and but once I saw the names, you kind of have a flashback, and you get to hear their life and what they've been doing for the past 50 years. And we had one guy who I had lunch with in my senior year. He I don't know when, I would say at least maybe 30 years ago, if not more, he moved to France, and he flew from France back here for a reunion, which I thought was really, really nice. I talked to him for a while. Quite a few my classmates have moved to the West Coast. There is, I know there's one couple. They actually dated in high school. They got married, and they've been married ever since. They live out in San Diego. Two of the guys that I knew live in Oregon. I think I heard there was a couple other gals that lived in California. I would say probably 40%, maybe close to 50% of my classmates still live in the local area and have never moved away. And if we were kind of talking about it Saturday, in that we think our class was around 300 students, give or take. Give or take maybe 30 students, because I heard as low as 290 and I heard as high as 330. I don't know. I could probably go back to my yearbook and count, but even that's not accurate because not everyone had their senior picture taken. So, but still, it was really fun. I thought what was really, really nice is somebody set up a table. Oh golly, the table had to be at least 4 foot long and 3 foot deep, and they had the little, probably about this high, little electric tea candles. The battery operated. You turn them on, it looks like a flame. And they had on, it was the glass that the tea candle was in. They had the senior picture of a person, and it was a remembrance table of people that have passed away. And I was actually quite shocked and quite surprised. We've lost 36 classmates, and some of them were actually very good friends of mine, and I did not realize that they had passed away. And there was people that I knew from high school. Maybe I wasn't. It was more of an acquaintance. I didn't know them very well, and they had passed away. So it was really kind of sobering in a way, and kind of sad because we've lost so many already. And I know as time marches forward, there's even going to be more. Let's be realistic. We're in our late 60s, and in the next 10, 15 years, a lot more are going to be dropping off. So, but anyways, The food was good. The I guess you want to say the company was good because I got to talk to a lot of people. I'm saving the best for the last. Um, it was. I'm trying to think. They gave us T-shirts with the high school name on it. It said 50-year reunion, and it was our school colors, which were orange and black. And I had kind of like it was a large white pullover shirt, and on the sleeves it had the university logo. So and I found that there was 4 other individuals that worked for the university, so we kind of bonded over that. But anyways, I had that on, and it's kind of big and bulky, so it kind of hid my bra. So I didn't think anything about it, and I'm trying to think if it was before dinner or was it after dinner? It was before dinner. This one gal, her name is Sue, come up to me, and she lived at the other end of my street. If I count the people at the other end of the street that were in my class, there was 3 other classmates. So, but anyway, she lived at the far end of the street. So she comes up to me and she goes, "Can I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Sure." She says, "Are you or have you transitioned?" God. I'm like, "Oh, well, I have transitioned." She goes, I had to ask, she goes, because I noticed. She goes, "You look so different." And I'm like, "I didn't think I really did." She goes, "Well, I've known you a lot of years." She goes, "Yeah." She goes, and also too, she goes, "My niece slash nephew is a female to male transgender individual." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." And so we got talking a little bit about that. So she's like, "Well, I just had to ask." And she goes, "Thanks for sharing." And I'm like, "Sure." And I showed her a picture of what I wore when I went to the white party back in June. And I think I shared that picture with everybody. But if not, you know what? I can maybe, um, put it up here. I don't know. Maybe I'll show it. I'll show you the picture they showed her. It's with my friend Michael and myself at the white party, and she's like, "Oh my God, you're stunning." I'm like, "Oh, thank you so much." So I went and I put my T-shirt on that they'd given us because they wanted everybody to have the 50-year reunion T-shirt on. They got everybody together and took a group picture. My T-shirt was a woman's large, and I put it over my white shirt that I was already wearing, and I think it made my breasts stick out a little bit. So I kind of walked around like this. I was a little self-conscious, but generally nobody really said anything, and which was fine. So after dinner, attached to this lodge was a covered patio, and I had gone out there and I'd run into some other people. There's one guy that I knew since first grade, and his dad was my bus driver, and we had a common friend, and this common friend, his name was Jim. He sat next to me in first grade. I worked with him at Xerox, so I knew him quite well, and unfortunately, sadly, Jim passed away a year ago this past March, and talking to this other friend whose name was Gary. He says, well, I talk to Jim every week, and explained that Jim had gone into kidney failure. And they found that his daughter was a direct match for a kidney. So he had the kidney transplant, and it was successful. And he was home recovering and recuperating, and he had a blood clot break loose and traveled to his lungs, and he died of a pulmonary embolism. I never knew the reason why he passed away. I just knew that he did. So it was kind of, it was both sad, but it was also, I'm not going to say enlightening, but it's kind of gave me a little bit of closure knowing how Jim passed away. So I had talked to another guy that I knew from first grade, who, amazing guy. After he got out of high school, he went and joined the Peace Corps and spent 2.5 years over in a little village in Africa helping build a town hall and school. And I'm like, this is really amazing. And then he came back here, and I know he got into computer programming, so he's a programmer, but he also volunteered, and he did ministry to prison inmates, which I thought was really admirable. I have to assume that he's very faith-based, which there's nothing wrong with it. It's, if it helps him, that's great. He did say something to me that I had to agree with him. He goes, the thing is, with working in prison ministry, he goes, you have to really self-reflect upon yourself and look inside yourself to see who you are. And I'm kind of standing there going, yeah, Jerry, you're absolutely correct. I agree with you 100%. So I was getting ready to go, and I was going to stop at the restroom before I left. So I was starting to make my way over there, and this one gal, her name is Patricia, but Pat, she stops me. She goes, can I ask you a question? I said, sure. She says, have you or are you transitioning? And I'm like, I have, Pat. So we wound up sitting down at one of the picnic tables outside. We had a wonderful 30-minute conversation. All kinds of questions that she asked. And I told her, I'm like, don't be afraid to ask. I'm willing to share. And she goes, when we were taking the tour of the high school, she goes, I was talking to you, and she goes, I'm talking to a woman. And she goes, and then I see your senior picture, and she goes, but that's a guy. She goes, but I know I'm talking to a woman. She goes, and then she goes, I noticed you had a bra on. She goes, so I had to come out and ask. And I'm like, that's perfectly fine. She was so accepting, so supportive. Her own life, which something I never knew, because she was gorgeous in high school. I just thought she was so pretty. She says, what I guess awakened her, let's say, as far as how minorities are treated in the United States and how they're looked down upon sometimes. She said she was going to college, and she applied for financial aid. And there was a problem with her financial aid applications. And she told me that I think she's 50% Native American. That's why she's so pretty. She's 50% Native American. So she went to financial aid office and said, well, I guess there's a problem with my forms. And the person behind the counter says, well, yeah, it never fails. She goes, there's always problems with forms with you minorities. And she's like, what? What did her heritage have anything to do with having problems with her financial aid forms? And she goes, it really made me realize, she goes, how badly minorities are treated in the United States. And I'm like, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I mean, that covers the gamut of minorities. Everything from Native Americans to people of color to the LGBTQ community to those that have emigrated to the United States or immigrated to the United States for a better life. This is how you're treated. The sad part it is, if you're not European white, and in this day and age, European white and male, then you're looked down upon. I mean, even with recent Supreme Court decisions, even white females are now looked upon differently. But anyways, so Pat and I had a wonderful, wonderful discussion. Very supportive. I showed her the picture from the white party. She's like, oh my God, you're so gorgeous and stunning. I'm like, oh, thank you. It was so great. I actually left on feeling really, really, really good. I'm probably going to do it. I've kind of thought about it the past couple of days, and I'm going to reach out to one of the gals that was on the organizing committee, and say, hey, since you kind of sent out emails to everybody, would you happen to have Sue and Pat's email addresses? Because I'd like to, I'm not going to need to specify why, but I would like to reach back out to them and show my appreciation. Thank them for taking the time to talk to me and to accept me, and to offer, like in Sue's case, her transitioning nephew, offer support, or if they needed somebody to talk to, that I would be more than willing to. And Sue lives maybe half hour from my house. I'm not sure. So, but it's something more to deal with. It's easy to do. Oh, let's see. I keep rambling on. Sunday was a recovery day. Unfortunately, my mother-in-law was calling my daughter and pestering her, and continuing with the nasty comments about me, which just kind of solidifies my decision to stop speaking to her and kind of terminate my relationship. She's not my mother. She's my mother-in-law. So there's no family connection there. I don't know the reason why. I did get a message, but my mother-in-law turned around and called my partner in Panama, and I think was complaining to them about me and, well, just everything in general, her accident and her broken ribs, and how she doesn't have any family that should take care of her. And not that my partner is going to jump on a plane and fly 3,000 miles back to the U.S. to come and take care of their mother. So I don't know how long the conversation went. My daughter did call my mother-in-law later on for something. Oh, she needed milk, and my daughter took milk over to her. And my mother-in-law says, well, you'll never guess who I talked to. And my daughter already knew. And she says, well, I suppose, she says, everybody in your house knows the all the bad things that I said about your dad, and he's going to get pissed off. And my daughter's like, no, we don't know. We just got a text saying that you had called. So I don't know. My partner hasn't said. I don't care, because I'm done. And then that was pretty much it. So, but it just mostly kind of, Sunday was a chill day, and Monday was back to work, and back to the routine of household stuff, laundry, and they're hoping for the next 36 hours. I think it's supposed to start sometime this afternoon. The next 36, I don't think 48 hours. We're supposed to get some rain finally, which I'm really, really looking forward to, because it should help. Well, it's definitely going to help my cistern and help my well, and hopefully I won't have to go to the laundromat and continuously do laundry. Which in some ways is okay. It gives me a little break away from the house, but in other ways it's like, no, because I've got a washer and I don't need to be paying to do laundry. But it is what it is. With the dry weather, I don't have a choice. But we're adapting, we're getting through this, and we're moving on. So let's see. I gotta stop with the rambling. This week I've got electrolysis coming up. I have my advocacy group meeting on Friday. We didn't meet last month because the group administrator, she needed a break. So we'll be getting together this month, which would be nice to see everybody. Oh, golly, no plans for the weekend yet. But that could change. I'm hoping to get some more things done around the house. Now that I don't have to cut grass, I want to go out and cut trees. Get some trees cut down. And I know I showed you in the previous videos. Get those taken care of. And actually, well, no, next week is the end of the month. And then I have to start planning my trip to Panama City. I got my flight. I have my hotel room. I need to get all my documents together and figure out what I need to take, because when I go to immigration, I need to kind of dress very nicely. Probably wear a skirt suit like I did before, but that's neither here nor there. That's in the future to be planned for next week. So enough of my rambling. I have bored you long enough. So I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful rest of your week. I hope you have a fantastic weekend. As always, like, share, subscribe. If you have any comments, questions, suggestions, topics you would like me to talk about, please, 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 in the comment section below. Everyone that's been around long enough knows I reply to all comments. I thank you for watching. You're all part of my extended family, and I make these videos every week to stay in contact with my extended family. As I've said many, many times before, even though I may not have personally met you face to face, I still consider you all part of my family. And this is my way of keeping in contact. So with that, like I said, again, thank you for watching. And I'll see you all maybe here, maybe outside, maybe in the car. Who knows? But I will definitely see you all next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.